Hello, everyone, and welcome into your twin flame reading. So, for this reading, I'll be taking a look at the energy from the divine feminine perspective, divine masculine perspective, and then for the connection in general. So, as a reminder, the divine feminine, that's going to be that push energy, um, that kind of chaser energy. The awakened twin is sometimes what it's called. Then the divine masculine energy is typically that considered that runner energy, more of that 3D twin, that pull energy. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what all energy is coming through. So I started this out in the middle here. We have this Amazonite, and that is about balancing and kind of unifying the masculine and feminine energy. So remember, within not only the twin flame connection, but also within you, everyone has masculine and feminine energy. And so it's a matter of balancing out that energy in general. So let's see what wants to come through for the connection. All right. And this is for divine feminine is where we'll start. All right. Let's do this. So the push from the universe is going to be the Hanged Man in reverse. How you're showing up is the Two of Swords. How you're showing up in the soul space is the Four of Wands. Your challenge card is the Knight of Wands. In the advice from Spirit is going to be the King of Swords. And then the likely outcome is the Four of Swords in reverse. So taking a look at this energy in general, the push from the universe, the Hanged Man in reverse, it's kind of like that sense of needless sacrifice and like just kind of there's resistance, there's delays, there's indecision, there's stalling. So it's kind of like you're taking that self-imposed period of reflection and just wallowing in that energy. So with that coming in as the push from the universe, it's kind of like almost like that push to move out of that energy. How you're showing up in the 3D with the Two of Swords is it's like this sense of denial and difficult choices, and it has a lot of feeling of split loyalties. And so it seems like the energy within the collective, and I've noticed this in different readers that I watch, and just kind of that feeling is that the feminine is kind of getting exhausted. Like, so for this wave of twin flames, the divine feminine is kind of getting exhausted and burned out, with that whole thing of the masculine is in her mind not really doing anything, like there's not any movement, and it's kind of that split loyalties between do I sit in this waiting energy and just keep working on the connection, or do I work on myself? So that's kind of the split loyalty part that's coming in. But in the soul space, the Four of Wands, that's a twin flame like union card. So in the 5D, you're showing up in loving union, with that harmony. But then with our Knight of Wands, that is about this fearless, courageous type of energy, and that's the challenge. It is having that courageous energy, is having that fearless energy and that sense of adventure, and okay, I'm going to give it another shot. So that's the challenge, because it seems like it's kind of been this long sense of waiting for the connection to come online, hoping the connection comes online. So the challenge then becomes, do you continue to fearlessly move forward on the path, or is it that there's a sense of, well, what should I do here? So the push from Spirit with the King of Swords is going to be have that that discipline and that rationality. So having that disciplined thinking as you approach your situation. So know that this is an energetic connection. It doesn't come online like that. And having that sense of, okay, rationally, I know I can't just sit here, literally twiddling my thumbs waiting. So that doesn't mean I'm turning my back on the connection. It means with this split loyalties, if you're choosing between yourself and your divine masculine, that's really not a choice that you have to make, so to speak, because you're one. So putting your energy into you does help the connection. with this likely outcome, the Four of Swords in reverse, there is this sense of exhaustion. So if you continue along this path of feeling like you are putting all of this, like giving your all to the connection, you're going to end up feeling exhausted because of the fact that that's not what you're being called to do in this connection. So in the 5D, you're showing up in union, and that's the part that you need to be putting more energy towards, is knowing that it's happening in the 5D and then not worrying as much about what's happening in the 3D. So the energy underneath, this is kind of what you don't see, or not necessarily what you don't see coming, but the next levels of energy. So there is justice coming in. So that's that harmony. There's that balance coming in, but there is a sense of burden too, and some struggle. But your 10 of Pentacles as well that's that stability. And when you look at it, that you have 10 energy coming in twice. So that's kind of like wrapping up some of these cycles, like wrapping up this cycle of feeling overburdened emotionally. And with the 10 of Pentacles, you're sitting in that abundance of resources, whether that's money, whether that's time, whether that's energy. So justice is going to bring that in. Kind of balancing that out, where you do feel like you have that abundance of energy, where you're not feeling like you're absolutely depleted by the connection. The next level of coming in after that, though, so it's kind of like everything goes in waves. So it's like this wave seems like it's bringing in some favorable results, but then kind of the next level of energy after that, there is a sense of like planning and getting excited about the future. But the Three of Cups in reverse and the Lovers in reverse, this is like you have a feeling of loneliness and almost kind of like reclusiveness. So with the Lovers in reverse as well, that's like there's more imbalance and some distrust. So it looks like for the Divine Feminine, there is some of that energy there. This deck, interestingly enough, usually the Lovers has 2 cards on it. This deck here, I'll turn it around so you can see it better, actually has 3. And so it's almost like there's this third party energy of, the Divine Masculine is trying to work through another situation. So this is, I would say, is probably applicable to people who have a Divine Masculine who's already in another relationship, because they're looking this way, trying to figure out their relationship. Their significant other is getting ready to turn around and stab them, and you're looking over their shoulder like, hey, don't you see this coming? And so there's a little bit of that sense of okay, when is this going to come to an end? So, especially with the Lovers card having come out, like Lovers in reverse, and then, with your Three of Cups kind of also having some third party energy in there as well. I would say this probably applies to situations where the Divine Masculine is in another relationship. So you're sitting in this third party energy, or it could be that the Divine Feminine is in another relationship. And so it's like that sense of split loyalty. So if it's your masculine that's in another relationship, it's kind of like, okay, do I stay around and wait for them to close that out? Do I move on, from a relationship standpoint? Do I stay? Do I just focus all my attention on me? What should I be doing? And, the challenge is having that fearlessness to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm doing moving forward. And advice from Spirit when it's having you in that King of Swords energy, that's that when we're talking about that rationality coming in, that, okay, in the grand scheme of things, if the DM, needs to close something else out, needs to finish out a third party situation or energy in order to come towards you, have that discipline and that rationality to say, okay, if I have to wait a little bit longer, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to totally let myself be pulled off the path. That doesn't mean sit around doing nothing. That means turn that energy to you, to your own healing, to your own growth, and moving forward in your life in that direction. All right, so let's check in on the divine masculine. Let's see what energy is coming through here. So push from the universe is the world. They're showing up, oh my gosh, they're showing up in the Two of Swords energy as well. And in the soul space, they're in King of Swords in reverse. So they're showing up like that in the soul space. Ace of Wands is the challenge. Push from the universe for them is Queen of Cups in reverse. Likely outcome is the Eight of Swords in reverse. So the push from Spirit on the World card, that is wrapping up of a cycle. So this is card number 21 in the Major Arcana. That is the end of that chapter, the end of that lesson, the end of that cycle, whatever that is. So following through on this same feeling, the same read that was coming out, that if this is a situation where divine masculine has another situation, relationship, whatever, that they have to end, they have to tie up those loose ends before coming towards you. That's what the push from the universe is. It's saying close out that cycle, because you're showing up right now with this like kind of split loyalties. And this also has a strong sense of denial. So, you know, with the swords are about your thoughts. And see, this figure is blindfolded. Here, this for the divine feminine, in this deck, this figure is not blindfolded. This figure can see what the decisions are that they're trying to choose between. And there is a clarity for the divine feminine on what that choice is. In this deck, for divine masculine, it's like there's this sense of denial. I'm not even wanting to see what's going on. I know I have this decision to make because I can feel that I have these two swords in my hand, and it's going to take me in opposite directions depending on which way I go. And it's a difficult choice, but it's almost like closing my eyes. I don't know what to do. I'm going to bury my head in the sand. And, you know, and that's kind of the way that the divine masculine is showing up. In the soul space, they're showing up with a little bit of this like weak energy. So, you know, or that was down here. So for divine feminine, the advice from Spirit was to show up with that, I'll call it that strong, disciplined, authoritative energy in how they're making their, you know, make your decision, move forward. For divine masculine, in the soul space, they're showing up in kind of this weak energy. Like they're not really sure what they should be doing. There's kind of this sense of, oh, you know, I know I'm being pushed to do this, but what should I do? And they need some conviction. So for them, the challenge is a new beginning. So for them, that's a challenge. There's some deep-rooted issues or healing that needs to happen at the soul level that hasn't happened because of the fact that it's been this burying their head in the sand type of energy and not wanting to make the decision. So advice from Spirit for the divine masculine is, and this Queen of Cups in reverse has kind of like this neediness and insecurity and fragility. So, you know, there's a little bit of that sense on here. Since you can't really see these cards very well, I'll pop little things under them so you don't get the glare. But I would say it's more of that matter of advice from Spirit is from that fragility standpoint. They need to allow themselves to be vulnerable, because as they're showing up right now, as they have been showing up, is kind of this, I'll call it not fake confidence, but it's almost like, yeah, sure, I have everything figured out, but do they really? Because they've been postponing making this decision. So they need to allow themselves to be vulnerable and to allow that insecurity to come through so that they can process it and they can work through it, because pretending that it's not there is not going to help. But the good news is the likely outcome of them being able to allow some of that, I'll call it sensitivity and fragility in, and allow themselves to need someone else. And, you know, that neediness is also a sense of opening up your heart chakra to someone else, to allow somebody else that space to come in, like that sense of I need you, and acknowledging that. And the likely outcome with the Eight of Swords in reverse, that's actually freedom. And that's gaining some insight and perspective and taking control of the situation. So the universe is pushing for them to end a cycle, and they're starting to take control to be able to make that happen. So, looking at the next level of energy coming in, we have our that Nine of Wands. We have our Five of Swords, and then the Empress in reverse, and then the next level of energy after that, we have Knight of Pentacles in reverse, Seven of Cups in reverse, and Seven of Swords. So as we're looking here, kind of the next level of energy coming in with our Nine of Wands, there's this sense of like taking a stand and being persistent and following through on some of that energy. The Five of Swords, though, is there's this little bit of like ruthlessness that's coming in as they're trying to move forward. So that does have a little bit of a sense of dishonesty for the Divine Masculine. So whether that's them being dishonest with you or whether that's them being dishonest with this other situation, that is something that's kind of out there as the next level of energy. And then there's also a sense of feeling unappreciated, which, I mean, those kind of go hand in hand. If they're being dishonest, it's hard for them to feel that sense of appreciation. Down here, the energy after that with the Knight of Pentacles in reverse, this is a little bit of like this dull and lazy energy coming through. And then with our Seven of Cups in reverse, it's like there's too many options and they're getting distracted and overwhelmed with what they need to do. And then the Seven of Swords energy is some more of that lying, cheating, deception. So it's like they've understood that they need to get out of the situation and they're trying to muddle their way through getting out of it. So let's pull a couple more cards there and see, because both of that has this sense of lying and like some dishonest behavior that's coming through. So let's see what other messages do we have from Spirit about this sense of dishonesty that's coming through. We have our Four of Pentacles in reverse, and then we have our Three of Wands. So this Four of Pentacles in reverse, I mean, good grief, Charlie Brown. That card has been coming out like crazy for the energy for the collective. And that is that sense of overgiving, like to the point where you're overextending yourself. And, so it has to do with being generous, but it's almost like you're being generous. And it, with it coming out as a clarifier on the lying and deception part, it's almost like they're trying to, like the Divine Masculine is trying to cover up their lies with being overly generous. So it could be a matter of, if this is a third party situation that they're finally exiting, they are trying to smooth it over by throwing time, money, resources at the situation. So it could be a situation if they're actually getting like a divorce, for example, throwing lots of money at their soon-to-be ex just to be done with it, so that the soon-to-be ex doesn't find out the degree to which things have maybe progressed with you and the Divine Masculine, or just that sort of energy, like, hey, I'm going to cover up any potential indiscretions or any potential points of conflict by just throwing more money at it. Or it can also be time. So if they're trying to smooth things over because they're not ready to make this decision, they're not ready to change anything, that maybe they're putting extra time, extra attention at home so that way that partner doesn't suspect what's going on in the background. But there is this sense, this Three of Wands, this freedom and growth. So it's like, I think there is this growth that's happening, and it could be a matter of the Divine Masculine doesn't want their karmic partner to know that they're growing, know that they're, traveling, and freedom is kind of about like, hey, I'm going and doing something else, almost like they don't want them to know about that. So they're trying to distract them by putting more resources in. So, so that's kind of the read that's coming through on the divine masculine side. But let's pull a timing card, because I mean it looks like some of this decision, like that they're breaking free and that they're traveling, is in there. But let's see from a timing perspective if there's any indication as to what that looks like. Like, when is that happening? Since it also looks like there's kind of this this other energy in there as well. Not in the foreseeable future. So, it could be that they're just stalling out on this decision. Okay. So that's how things are looking in the divine masculine's world. Let's take a look at the connection in general. Ooh. Well, we had the Six of Wands in reverse and the Death card in reverse. So I don't pull those cards for the connection. So I'll just leave those over there. So the Death card in reverse is there's this resistance to change and kind of like a lack of movement. And it's an unwelcome, inevitable change. And it also has to do with loss. The Six of Wands in reverse is a sense of disappointment and a little bit of disgrace. So it's kind of, I guess, if that's the overall energy for the connection right now, it's this sense of, things aren't changing. Like, there's not a lot of movement that's going on. The Queen of Swords also jumped. So the Queen of Swords in reverse is kind of this like criticism and cruelty and bitterness. So looks like there's some delays going on with the divine masculine, and it's pushing the connection out of alignment. So let's take a look then at the connection overall. And in the push from the universe is the Chariot. The how the connection is in the 3D is King of Swords. There's the Devil energy in the soul space. The challenge is the Seven of Wands. Advice from Spirit is Ten of Swords. And then likely outcome is the Five of Pentacles in reverse. So, and this is at the connection level. The push from the universe is forward movement. Like, keep this moving forward. Like, don't let this situation, or don't let this connection stall out by getting distracted with other things. How it's showing up in the 3D with the King of Swords energy is there is kind of this authority and like discipline. And I'm trying to remember, was the King of Swords, I think. So King of Swords has been showing up a lot, so this is water sign here. You had King of Swords in reverse for the masculine. You had King of Swords in the upright as the advice from Spirit. And how the connection is showing up is that King of Swords, kind of that authority, and I would say this has a sense of coldness to it, like not that authority and discipline, it's a very unromantic type of sense. Like, okay, this has to be rational, and, almost like the connection has been put on the sidelines because of this situation with the masculine. How it's showing up in the soul space is actually the Devil energy. So in the soul space, the connection is being tempted and kind of pulled apart. So I think from the divine masculine's perspective, the connection is kind of off kilter, because for divine feminine in the soul space, she's showing up as Four of Wands. So that's that kind of blissful union, but the connection itself, if it's in this Devil energy, it's that the connection isn't full and it's not fully integrated in the soul space. And I think it's because there's more healing that needs to happen before it's coming online in the soul space. The challenge card is the Seven of Wands, and that is that stamina and that perseverance. So the challenge is that there's all of these 3D obstacles, and can the connection persevere? Does it have the stamina to keep going despite these challenges. So advice from Spirit, actually with the Ten of Swords, that's the sense of like exhaustion and defeat. So it's not that Spirit is saying, oh, the advice is just, wave the white flag, it's over, defeat. It's, here there's kind of this, you have this griffin and, this flying energy, taking flight. And with this card, you do have the twins here in the bottom. And so that's that lover's energy. So that's kind of like that advice of, pushing through that sense of exhaustion and defeat. And on the other side of it, if you can push through that exhaustion and defeat, on the other side of that, you're going to have this sense of like forgiveness and overcoming this adversity. So it's a matter of, can you push through that sense of exhaustion and defeat? And that's, because of the fact that the twin flame connection, it's led by the divine feminine, it's led by the awakened twin. That's the one that's really leading the connection. I mean, unfortunately, sorry, divine feminines, because usually you're the ones watching this. You're at that crossroads of, you can clearly see what's going on. Your eyes aren't covered. You can see what's going on, and you're at a point of making that difficult decision of, what do I do? Do I stay loyal to this connection and continue to persevere and put energy and effort into this connection, or do I abandon it? And I think it's going to come down to, do you have the energy? Do you have the stamina to keep putting more into this connection? Because it seems like the masculine has this other stuff that's going on, like this 3D situation, and they're trying to break free of it, but it seems like it's going to take a little while, because of the fact that it was saying, not in the foreseeable future, in terms of when they're kind of overcoming this sense of, the lies and moving past all of that. So that doesn't mean that they're not going to come towards you, but it means that there's going to be some of this muddied energy for a while, because of the fact that they're balancing the ending of something, and it seems like there's not necessarily straightforward energy as that unwinds, however fast or slowly. And it seems like that's going to be slowly unwinding. And it could be a matter of when, with this lies and deceit, there may even be something that they haven't told you about that will kind of slowly come to light as things move on. So let's take a look at some of these oracle cards and see what other messages come through there. Step out of your comfort zone, North Node, and nothing will come of this situation. So you need to step, and this is in general, of stepping out of your comfort zone, because staying where you are, continuing to do what you've been doing, is not going to yield any results. So North Node, stepping out of your comfort zone, that is you being true to yourself and being unapologetically you. So when it comes time to making this decision, be unapologetically you, because if you stay in the comfort zone that you're in right now, nothing's going to come of it. There's not going to be any changes. The whole thing of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You have to step out of your comfort zone. Oh my gosh, there were a lot of cards there, in order to have any sort of movement. Something has to give. Something needs to happen differently. So this is from the Twin Flame deck. I feel like some of these cards are weird. Let's see. Awareness. Crystal clear vision. So like I said, I think this is all coming down to you, Divine Feminine. You can see the situation. You're at a crossroads and you can see it. Divine Masculine can't really see. They either can't or are choosing not to see the big picture. They're blindfolded. They're in denial about what is really going on here. So it's going to come down to you. You have the awareness to be able to make that decision in terms of how to proceed. And then let's take a look here. One more oracle card. And it says you need to put in more effort. And we'll pull one more just because. decide where you want to go. So actually that goes in here perfectly. Decide where you want to go. And that is also going with that stepping out of your comfort zone, and North Node being unapologetically you. Where do you want to go? When you look back on your life, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, what are you going to say? I wish I would have done blank. And then putting in more effort. That doesn't necessarily mean throw time, money, and resources at your twin, at your 3D twin's body or that situation. It's put in the effort to see with more clarity what the situation is, where does it need to go, what direction do you need to take in order, or what steps do you need to take in order to move it in the right direction. So if the connection has stalled out, being able to step back and say, why has it stalled out? What has been my contribution to it stalling out? What could I do differently to change that dynamic? And some of that might mean, pulling back some of the effort, because like I said, the readings for the last couple weeks, there's been an awful lot of this Four of Pentacles in reverse, this, overgiving type of energy. So putting in more effort doesn't mean continuing to overgive. It's looking at, is my overgiving to the situation contributing to part of the problem? And if that's the case, reining that back in. So putting in effort to reining in your, I don't know if love bombing is the right word, but reining in that, here, let me make up for problems by just overdoing. So, again, as I always say, take only what resonates. So this is probably for a specific twin scenario, for kind of a specific set of twins. So if this doesn't match up with what your experience is, don't try to force this message onto your situation. But as always, take only what resonates and leave the rest behind. So I had also put out readings for the second half of February, so check those out if you haven't already done that. And as always, I wish you peace and joy along your journey. Until next time.